Good evening, my fellow Riz Elite members. This is Chris with Riz International, and this is your weekly market recap. We're going to go ahead and start things off here with the S&P 500 and kind of talk about what's going on in the market a little bit. It hit a new all-time high on Friday, now currently sitting at 4,468.37 for the all-time high on the S&P 500. And we closed basically right at it, 38 cents below it. I'll call that as a close at all-time high, if you ask me. So Riz mentioned earlier in Discord about kind of what's going on with the market right now. And it's basically just like trickling up. Is the word that he used to describe it. And I think that's a pretty good explanation of what's going on. It's like we just keep kind of slowly grinding towards the upside. And the market feels really bloated right now. It feels like something is propping it up. Now, of course, we don't have any direct evidence of that. Riz talked about this in his alert. If you're part of Riz Elite, you'd have this already. But it just feels like there's something going on. Now, again, this is just a gut feeling. It's not something that we have any empirical evidence to say, oh, you can look at these numbers and see that this is doing this. No, we don't have that for this right now. It's just kind of a feeling that you get when you've been in the market as long as Riz has. And it's something to keep note of because more often than not, his feelings are correct. So this is why we have been advising everyone, in Elite to be very cautious with the positions that you're taking, to go ahead and take profits early. And I think in a market that is behaving the way that it is right now, that is very sound advice because, there's a lot of things that have been going on. Right, we had the infrastructure bill got passed. They're talking about the spending bill, which is even more ridiculously huge. And, it feels kind of like the catalyst that was the infrastructure bill being passed was already somewhat baked into the market. And you kind of see that, because the market really didn't jump either direction. It's just kind of slowly grinding its way north. And, this could be due to a lot of hesitation and concern about inflation. Now, obviously, inflation has been on, our talking points for quite some time. It's something that everyone's talking about right now. And as, if the inflation numbers keep going up, I think we're going to see a lot of people starting to get a little freaked out. And it's definitely something to be aware of, especially when you're trading in this environment. So it's like, the market just keeps hitting new all-time highs like every day. And it just, like I said, it feels overextended right now. The market feels like it needs some type of correction. Please note, I did not say a recession. I did not say a depression. I said a correction. We've had several of those. We had them like here, we had them here, and it just really feels like the market is ready for that. I think we need to get some correction, and you got to understand that is a healthy thing. The market needs to do that. Otherwise, you could just buy and hold forever and you'd never lose any money because the market would just go up. And also means you'd have to buy at really high prices as well, and that would price people out of the market. So I think we're due for a correction. Again, we aren't buying SPY puts or anything like that, but it just feels like it's going to happen, and it will happen sooner or later. It can't continue to go until, Riz Elite gets shut down in however many years that happens. The market has to come back at some point. And so it's one of those things where we really feel that a correction is due. We'll keep an eye on things, but yeah, be very, very cautious with your positions right now. Now is a time to be building cash position and also be taking profits quickly on those positions that you hold that are in the green. I'm not saying you go and cash out every position that's green right now, but if you are at a pretty decent spot as far as profit is concerned, consider going ahead and taking that now just to lock it in and make sure that everything's good in case there is a correction. You're not standing there holding the bag going, well, what in the flip do I do now? All right, let's take a look at the breakdown of the S&P 500 right now. And tech is making the comeback, even though it got really pushed down here towards the end of last week, definitely grinding towards the upside and actually outperforming the S&P 500. S&P 500, by the way, is up 20.91% on the year. Tech just cracked over to the overperforming side of things at 21.18. And we have our typical, culprits here that have been overperforming the market all year, basically, which is financials, real estate, and energy. All of those three are well above the S&P 500, and actually all of them over plus 30% on the year. That is ridiculous. As we're coming into quarter three here, or coming towards the end of it rather, starting in September. It's hard to believe that we can say that we're that far into the year. It feels like we just had the first of January so far. But yeah, it's hard to say that we're almost 3/4 of the way done with the year so far. It's nuts. But healthcare and utilities still underperforming, though I will say utilities is starting to curl back up, and healthcare is looking pretty good too. If you've been watching Pfizer or Moderna, and actually any of the big pharma companies recently, you'll notice that they've kind of been spiking a little bit, though they are starting to come back. And it has been interesting to watch those. But yeah, healthcare still underperforming as well as utilities. Let's go ahead and take a look at a breakdown here of the asset classes. So let's start with oil, Riz's favorite commodity to to watch and trade. We found the top here just below $77 a barrel, and that has proved to be rock solid resistance at this point. We hit that and we never got even close again. Oil actually now in a slight downtrend, I would say, and I think a lot of this has to be fear from the Delta variant. Of course, with Delta starting to make its run through, the United States, Europe, and across the globe for that matter, there is a lot of fear and trepidation that there may start to be travel restrictions again. What those restrictions will look like, no one knows at this point. But if there are travel restrictions and people are traveling less, obviously oil is going to take a hit because the airline companies aren't buying as much oil because they don't need it. So I think this is a little bit of fear, what we're seeing here for the most part in oil. It's a little bit of like, okay, we don't know what's going to happen next with Delta. What are all the countries going to do? And so we are going to keep an eye on that at this point. But yeah, oil definitely, starting to look like it's making a turn back towards the southern side of things. Currently down below the 50 moving average, but not anywhere close to the 200. Gold, after taking a beating, and I mean an absolute freaking beating at the end of last week, really rallied. I mean, Monday was pretty bad for gold too, but man, it came right down to the support level. Look how solid that was. My gosh, came right down to that 1680 area, bounced off of that solid. And of course, whenever we are running a webinar, my cell phone always goes off. It is, never, doesn't happen. Thank you, love. But yeah, came right down to that support level at 1680 here on gold, and it has rebounded with an absolute vengeance, almost basically, engulfing this pullback in gold here, really making a run towards the north side of things here, just blew through this 1765 area. It doesn't seem like that slowed gold down at all, and it just plowed through it on Friday. So gold really making a run here after this big sell-off here on Friday and the following Monday. Let's take a look here at Bitcoin. Let's see what's going on in the crypto zone. And, last week we kind of had this bounce here off of the 90, pushed up to the 200, and we're kind of chilling at the 200. But after that, Bitcoin made a big push, looks like on Friday, pushing over the 200 simple moving average here, and kind of capped out right around 48,000 on Bitcoin. So massive recovery from this, huge sell-off where Bitcoin lost about 50% of its value. Since then, let's see, when it started coming back, yeah, Bitcoin up 60%. Over 25 trading days. So huge recovery in Bitcoin so far. Still hasn't made it back up here to 64-ish. But if this trend continues, it'll be there sooner or later. Of course, with more inflation worries, people may be looking towards other forms of currency. And crypto obviously offers something that, a lot of other currencies on, the planet can't offer, in the fact that it's completely decentralized. So, crypto making a pretty big surge here. I'm not suggesting that anybody go ahead and jump in on crypto. I'm just telling you why I think that it is bouncing here, especially with the numbers, the inflation numbers starting to go up here from the Federal Reserve. Now, as we mentioned earlier, Riz really feels like the market is overinflated at this point, so we don't have any tickers that we have on watch this week. I know usually we have 2 or 3 that we're kind of keeping an eye on. We'll give you guys some insight as far as to what's on our radar. right now we're going to be very, very cautious with our trading, and I highly recommend you guys do the same. Again, build your cash position now. Be ready for that pullback. This is the trick, guys. If you want to know how you make money in the market, this is it. It's the old adage: buy low, sell high. I understand how difficult that can be, because you see all these big red candles, especially in the market, and you're like, oh my gosh, how can I buy into this? Guys, this is where the money is made. And the only way you can do that is if you have a sizable cash position ready for deployment when that correction comes. We just kind of feel it in our gut right now that it's coming. And so we are not going to be taking a whole lot of new positions, and we don't recommend you guys do as well. However, of course, you can trade at your own discretion. It is, of course, your decision as how you want to trade. But as far as how Riz is going to be trading, a lot more defensive, taking profits early. Do want to touch on a couple of the positions that Riz decided to get into this week. First being PayPal. Excellent entry here. Looks like we found the floor after the earnings sell-off here, and really kind of bouncing off the 90 moving average very, very nicely. Looks like we got in on this one on the 4th. Or Riz got in on the 4th, excuse me. And so here it was actually towards the end of last week. Looks like we pushed back up, kind of came back down to support again, though this is looking pretty good if you ask me. This is a clear uptrend right now. And that is very nice. When you have that ascending support like that, if that support level holds, then you should be in pretty decent shape all around. So, PayPal looking pretty solid here. Not anything that we're concerned about. And then another one we got in on the 5th is AFRM. So this one, let's see. This is basically a technical trade that Riz was just talking about. Basically it's starting to curl back up, and you can see that pretty clearly here with what it's doing. Same pattern that we saw in PayPal, just a little bit longer. More data points here on AFRM. Also a rather new, ticker here. More recent IPO. Looks like we IPO'd back in January. But really nice move here. We kind of came up. We found some resistance, came back down, started to curl back upwards. That's when we got ahead and got in at 68.63. A little bit in the red on this after Friday, but still looking very, very nice here. No problem. And we have both of the moving averages below us now, which is definitely very, very useful. So guys, those were the most recent trades that Riz took. I want to go ahead and open up the floor to questions, guys. If you want me to take a look at anything, now is the time to do so. More than happy to do that. Okay, somebody was ready. They had their question typed out waiting for me to do that. Okay, says Chris, many growth stocks are hammered already. Do you think they will be down a lot further along with overall market if when any correction happens? Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of these stocks are going to take bigger hits if the market rolls over. I know some of those, let me think here. I mentioned pharma early, so we can look at, no, that's not the right one, PFE. Good old Pfizer. So Pfizer been on an absolute tear lately. I think that, maybe, and I'll talk about pins here in a second, Matthew. Pfizer on an absolute tear. I'll tell you, if this one rolls over, then yeah, it's going to go too. I think Apple took a bit of a beating lately, if memory serves. Let me look. Not so much. If there's any one particular, that you're talking about, Negshwara, let me know if you have any tickers that you particularly care for me to take a look at. But yeah, I mean, if the S&P 500 rolls, I think that, everything is going to roll with it, honestly. When you have a big move in the market, most of the things will move in sympathy with it. So yes, even if something is hammered already, more than likely it's going to get more hammered. That's not always necessarily true, but more often than not, it's a pretty fair assumption to make should a correction happen. So yes, I think that, growth stocks definitely would. Okay, so you're talking about like 3D printing. So DDD, that's a familiar one. I know that one. Okay, so yeah, I mean, definitely down from the highs here that we had back in February earlier this year, really taking off this year. Well done for 3D systems. 3D printing is definitely a very interesting, area or sector, rather, that hasn't truly been fully explored yet. I think there's a lot of things that can be done with 3D printing that we haven't gotten around to, and I think it's definitely a great, sector to keep an eye on. I don't think it's going to be as, bad as the weed sector. I can't think of a better word for it than that. But I think 3D printing, there's a lot of untapped potential there for a lot of different technology to come out from that. And it's not just making cool stuff to sell on Pinterest. Speaking of pins, we will take a look at that here in just a second. But yeah, definitely been taking a bit of a beating here since February. And yeah, if the market rolls over, I could see this one and most other growth stocks like this go down as well. Let's take a look at DM. Yeah, so a bit of a beating here post earnings. This one's even more beat down than DDD. But yeah, I think honestly, if we see more selling in the market, we'll see selling in these tickers as well. And yeah, it's just something to keep an eye on. So the question was, do we still hold pins? The answer is yes, we do. So where are all my drawings? That's unfortunate. I should have had drawings on here because I hold pins. So yeah, let's go ahead and throw a few of these up here. So we definitely have some support here in this area around 53.80, probably closer to 54, to be honest with you. Let's see. Yeah, that seems pretty decent there. But yeah, pins was a knife catch play. And I went ahead and got in on that. I know that a lot of our members went ahead and got in on that as well. Has been, really did not make the move that we're hoping for. Still very extended below the moving average at this point. Even though the moving averages are starting to curl over, we're still way below. And honestly, earnings were very good for Pinterest, but it was one of those things where they said that they were having fewer members. And so it's one of those things where it's like, it used to be like with Netflix, right? When they talk about new subscribers. So it used to be, it didn't matter what the earnings were on Netflix. All they cared about were the subscriber numbers. So apparently with Pinterest, it's the same thing. That being said, spectacular earnings report from Pinterest here. And yes, we still hold. I still hold in my personal account. I have a decent amount put in this. And yeah, it's been beaten down a little bit. Sometimes with a knife catch, you get cut. And, we definitely are red on this trade. I can tell you right now, it's one of those things that we're just going to have to hold through it. Honestly, that's really what it comes down to. Sometimes when you take a play like this, you try and guess where the bottom is as best you can. But truth is, no one knows exactly where the bottom is going to be. But if you maintain your position, if you maintain your thesis, you should be able to hold through these downturns like this and just ride through it. Honestly, just hang on tight and grin and bear it because sometimes you just are going to have to hold through red. And it may take a while. It may take a couple months before this thing turns around. It could turn around tomorrow, or excuse me, on Mondays. It ain't going to turn around tomorrow because tomorrow's Sunday. But I mean, it could turn around on Monday. This thing could gap up. You never know. And just run. If it gets volume, it can do some stuff. I mean, even on low volume, sometimes we have huge moves on this, like 4 or 5% on Pinterest. So this thing can go if it gets a little bit momentum behind it. So if you're holding this one and you're convicted in the trade, absolutely continue to hold. I hold personally. I continue to hold, and it is one of those things. It's like, yeah, it sucks. You have to hold through these drawdowns, but sometimes that's part of it. If you have cash available, I'm not going to suggest averaging down just yet, especially if you got in, kind of in this area. Kind of where I did. I think I got in here on this Monday. And yeah, you can look to average down later. We might want to see if we can actually find the bottom first before you consider averaging down, or just hold on to your original position and let it run. But yeah, Pinterest is one that we're still holding. I know that it's been, frustrating for sure. Another one that I know we're holding that I should have plenty of drawings on for you. There we go. Corsair. This is one that I'm holding. Yeah. This one's painful. Not gonna lie. You can tell that I'm holding it because I've drawn the bejesus out of the chart. So let me just zoom in a little bit here on this. So yeah, Corsair sadly got out of its lovely pennant that it was in. It's in a bit of a downtrend now, but we did find support here around the 26 mark, and as long as that holds, I don't feel too bad holding onto this one as well. I know this is one that we've traded in Elite several times, and some of you may be holding a position in right now. So yeah, just sometimes you got to hold through it. Airbnb, another one. Now this one is making a very nice move. This one finally getting there. And this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes you may try and catch the knife on something like this, and you just have to hold. I know I think I'm in around 152 or something like that, so I'm actually finally green on this thing. And you just kind of have to hold through this junk, and then eventually you'll get the catalyst, you'll get the move. As long as you have conviction in the trade, you shouldn't have any problems holding. I've been holding this one for like a month or longer. It's been incredibly painful, but finally starting to curl back towards the upside. So looking really good here on this one. Obviously, the earnings was very nice on Airbnb, really good, huge beat as far as their estimates were concerned. Still not making money, but you know what? They're losing less than they were, and that's always a good thing. But those are some of the ones that I know I'm personally holding. I know that Riz is still holding, and so I wanted to go over those. I haven't seen any other questions in the chat, but so yeah, I just want to reiterate one more time, guys, here with the S&P 500. Be very careful. Of course, the market can continue to grind upwards. Oh wait, hang on a second. There's another one. No, you're good. Take a quick look at Tesla. All right. Okay, Tesla. Okay, looks like we found support here around 700. Yeah, definitely this 700 area really solid on Tesla. A bit extended from the moving average, but this sideways consolidation at this level is definitely a good thing. What you have happen here when you have these bounces off the moving averages oftentimes is if it can maintain these gains. Yes, Kyle, we can definitely take a look at that one too. When you can maintain these moves towards the upside and just consolidate sideways, think of it as kind of stretching the rubber band out a little bit and then just slowly letting it contract back together. You're not letting it go and slapping you on the wrist. You're just slowly letting that pressure off. And that's kind of what consolidation can be considered as sometimes. When you have that huge run up here, like we had in 3 days, basically on Tesla, where it went from 650 all the way up to like 725, it looks like, or close to it. And it is just like after that, we stretch that out. And we're like, okay, we're going to relax a little bit. So it's really just kind of a relaxation here, some buying, some selling, nothing really definitive either direction. But the fact that we keep bouncing off this 700 area is very promising for Tesla. So that's definitely a good thing for it. And the moving averages are starting to curl back towards the upside. So definitely a good potential, entry if you like this stock. Definitely something you could possibly look to get in here if it continues to hold 700. If it breaks 700 and it dies, then yeah, maybe don't. But keep an eye on it. Definitely one to consider. All right, PLTR, this is another one. Had a nice result here from earnings, a 13% beat. Wow, a half of a penny. Man, talk about beating earnings right there. But apparently half of a penny is 13% for Palantir. Riz got out of some of this, finally being able to break even off this gap up here on earnings. And I know he said that he cleared some of that off of some of his position to make sure that was, he was able to lock some of that in and make sure it didn't turn back down on him. So Palantir definitely making a nice move. I like this pattern. We made a higher low here on Friday, very solid. We didn't make a new high. That's okay because, with the earnings catalyst on Thursday, that much whip in the candle is you're going to be hard pressed to make a new high. But definitely making the move here on Palantir. If you want to keep holding, you definitely can, but don't let this thing go back red on you. If you're close to break even, consider taking some off to make sure that you don't get hammered in case it rolls over or the market rolls over as well. ATVI, I'd have to look. I don't recall if Riz is still in ATVI, but of course, Activision currently under a bit of investigation with some sexual harassment allegations from some of its female employees and, other female employees of different ethnicities, if I could talk. So ATVI a little bit hammered here from that. You can kind of see when that happened, even though earnings were good, a 21% beat. Holy cow, that's ridiculous. Still just getting hammered. But I will say it looks like it's starting to curl back upwards. So if you are still in this one with the play that we took, definitely something that you could consider continuing to hold, though Friday was not too pleasant. But still looking pretty good here off of this rebound. Looks like we found the floor at around 78. Let me check here. I can check and see if Riz mentioned that whether he was still in ATVI or not. Usually he posts his open positions. Let me dig through that real quick. Looks like Riz hasn't posted his current positions as of late, and I would have to dig and see if I could find that. But I would say if you're still holding ATVI from the knife catch, then this is a pretty nice recovery that we're seeing here. We did see continued selling. Obviously, there was a lot of negative sentiment towards it. I can imagine why. I'll have to say I'm incredibly disappointed. I've always liked Blizzard as a company. Of course, Activision acquired Blizzard, but yeah, to hear this coming out of there was very disappointing, to say the least. I'm really kind of bummed out. Because I was looking towards Diablo 4, and now I'm kind of a bit sour on it. But we'll see how that pans out. But definitely not good news coming out of there. That being said, we've seen this before with other companies, such as Wynn. Let me go look at that. There was some sexual assault scandals here. I believe that was what caused this, if memory serves correctly. Yeah. Obviously, you can tell that I've been playing with this. No, this was Corona. So the Wynn scandal, I can't remember exactly when it was. If somebody knows off the top of their head, it might have been this, because it was pre-Corona. I remember that. And so, you have these scandals and things like that, and they are a short-term catalyst. It's one of those things that, it's like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of negative sentiment, and people will look to vacate their positions because they think it's going to go down because of the allegations that were made, the lawsuits that were filed, whatever it may be. But, you see them come back. And, that's the thing. So, I mean, as far as ATVI is concerned, obviously, I'm really, not happy with the news that came out of there from that, obviously. But all things being equal, looks like it's starting to come back already. So if you're holding that one, you definitely can continue to hold, Daniel. I don't know if I would take a position in it right now. I'm not sure if I would. That's something I would feel comfortable jumping in right now. But if you're in it already, you can definitely continue to hold. Matthew wants to take a look at Sony. All right. Pretty nice uptrend, if you ask me. Earnings look like they were pretty good, pretty decent beat here. Really respecting the 200 pretty well. Yeah, Yas, go ahead and post it in there. So Sony looking pretty decent here, all things considered. Nice, kind of rebounds here. It does gap a lot, I think mostly because it's traded on the Japanese stock exchange, if memory serves. But definitely looking towards the upside here on Sony. Looking pretty solid, if you ask me. I wouldn't feel too bad about taking a position in this if I had the funds. I currently don't, but it is definitely something you could consider. Looking pretty strong right now. This has to be a fantastic question by Yas. It's taken. Okay, here we go. All right, on Wish, what are your thoughts on earnings? I understand they had very bad earnings, but 20+% drop post earnings seems like an overreaction. Let's take a look here. I know this is one that Riz has been holding for quite some time due to short puts. Kind of got Black Swan evented into that. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big rollover, to say the least. 20% is pretty massive, but we are looking at a fairly low dollar stock here. So, I'm personally not jumping in on this. I know that there's a lot of talk and obviously a lot of hype. Looking at the volume bars here. That's a lot of hype right there. That should be yellow. There we go. That's better. So I know that the group that shall not be named was talking about, trying to pump this. And looks like they kind of did a little bit, but it has come back down. Earnings were pretty bad. Yeah, minus 20% on earnings. So, yeah, a bit of a beat down here. I personally wouldn't take this. I don't really feel comfortable taking something like this. But if you want to take a speculative play, you can. Just don't go in full size and don't bet the farm on it is basically going to be my recommendation. If you're holding shares from the short puts that that Riz took, if you decided to follow him on that and you got to sign this, my recommendation is still to continue right covered calls on this. and starting to decrease your cost basis every week to the point where you might even be positive as far as your cost basis is concerned. And if for some reason they get called away, then your profit target should be, pretty decent as far as that's concerned. If they do get called away, so I personally would not go long on this as far as buying the underlying. That's just me. I don't trade penny stocks, and that's basically what this has become. We're sub $10 at this point. So, and I wouldn't be buying the dip on something that missed earnings by 20%. That's just my opinion. That's my personal trading philosophy. Yours may be different. If this is the type of play that you like, maybe you want to scalp it. Maybe you want to, just try and get in for, 50, 60 cents, or maybe even $1. Then it's something you could consider if it fits your parameters for trading. For me personally, it doesn't. So that's just me. You have your own trading, philosophy, your own trading parameters. So if that works for you, then yeah, it definitely looks like we got the dead cat bounce. We'll have to see if it continues to bounce going into Monday. And like I mentioned earlier, if you are assigned on this and you have the shares sitting in your brokerage account, write those covered calls, my friends. Get that free premium basically, and start reducing your cost basis on it. So that's my recommendation on Wish if you have the shares available already. If you don't and you're looking to dip buy, it's not my cup of tea. But if it works for you, dude, you rock it. If it fits your trading and how you like to trade and what you're looking for, it could work. Guys, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I really appreciate it. You guys were awesome. Wonderful questions today. Of course, if you're not part of Riz Elite and you're watching this on YouTube, guys, you need to get in here. I don't think Riz has membership open now, but man, if I were you, keep an eye on these things because we don't hold membership open for long. And those members that stick around usually cover their dues pretty much every month with the trades that we're posting. So you can definitely profit from this. And we are all here to help you. And of course, to all my elite members here on the live webinar, thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. And we will see you in Discord on Monday.